Well, this is not a good start to my day. Welcome back to the allotment. As you can see, it's a bit of a windy day today. It's Saturday the 6th of May, and I thought I'd come down and do a quick tour before I get on with some jobs. The wind's pretty blowy, so I'm hoping that the sound is going to be okay on this. Stood the compost bin back up. I suspect that was a victim of the wind. It had the perspex stacked behind it, which was probably acting as a bit of a sail, and given that it's empty, or pretty empty, it's got a few rhubarb leaves in the bottom of it, but that's about all. I suspect it was just strong gust took it over. Unfortunately it fell in the gap between the broad beans there, so it didn't do any damage, but one of the perspex sheets did fall on the broad beans, but hopefully won't be too bad. There seems to be one plant that's been hit, but it doesn't look like the stem's broken, just bent, so I'm going to leave that and see what happens. So let's start with the broad beans. As you can see, we tuck in there. There's some that are fairly good size already, so it won't be long, I guess, before we're harvesting broad beans. The planting that took place separately, so I did interplants. There's a couple there which seem to have got waylaid, and a few over here, and then a whole batch which was where the last of the brassicas were over there, so they'll come on a bit later, so hopefully we'll get a bit of a succession. Got a few odd volunteer potato plants coming through as well. If you remember, the potatoes were here at the start of last year, so there's one there, there's another one there down by my foot. Weeding, I think, is going to be one of the principal jobs today. There's quite a few weeds coming through, but isn't that always the way? It's always about the weeding. So let's have a look. What have we got? Scarecrows are out. I think I've already talked about those in a previous video. Looks like we've inherited someone's plastic sack over there. We're going to get that in a minute. As you can see, potatoes have come through, and I'm going to ridge them up again a little bit more, I think. Probably just the one more time. Certainly that far row is not as high as this one, and I don't seem to be doing as well either. We had some late frost at the end of April. I don't know how well you can see, but there's a few burnt leaves on there. Nothing too drastic. They were earthed up just before the frost came, so I'm hoping that they'll be okay. It's just the odd leaf here and there that got caught by a frost. Nothing else I don't think seems to have been affected. I've got my leeks are in. Let's take you around and show you those. So yeah, I've got leeks in. I've done a previous video on planting leeks, so I didn't bother filming this, but I think there's about just over 80, about 86 plants that went in. There's one or two that I'm not sure are going to take. They're looking a bit raggedy, but we'll see. The biggest problem we've got at the moment, to be fair, is watering. Let me just turn the camera around. We've had a lot of very dry days, unfortunately, and had to be watering pretty much every 2-3 days, because we just haven't had any rainfall. I think in April we had one sort of overnight spell of rain, and that was about it. So we've had to pretty much water everything as we've been going, which is fine. You know, it's one of those things. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's another job, and also I think that the plants prefer rainwater rather than tap water, and ultimately once the rain barrels are empty, it's got to be water from the tap. We're lucky enough that we've got water on the site piped in, so we don't have to worry too much about it. Although I did see an article in one of the papers yesterday talking about gardeners and other people cutting back on using water now so that we don't have to have hose pipe bans and things like that later in the year. We'll see what happens. We might get a stonkingly wet June, I guess. It's happened before. But at the moment we've had a very dry April, and although we're only, what, 6 days into May, it's not been an improvement. So we've been in a bit of a dodgy weather year so far, but we'll see. Anyway, let's carry on with the tour. Onions, garlic, they're doing well. These were the ones that were overwintered. And then this 2 rows here are the Stuttgarter Giant, which were given to me. A few of them haven't made it, but the vast majority have. I spaced them reasonably well on the basis I was figuring that they were going to need a lot of room, so we'll see what happens. My carrots have germinated, they're up, a little bit patchy in the germination, but I think that generally seems to be the story of the year so far. I posted a video which you may or may not have seen from the potting shed, and I was talking about sweet corn germination, and pretty much everybody commented that they've had the same problem. So I think germination of seeds this year, probably down to the weather, has not been good. There should be here, I can't remember which way around it is, but a half row of lettuce and a half row of rocket. Neither of those are taken, but if you look, let's just, if I can get the zoom to work, zoom in behind, there's a, where's my finger, there's a row of Mizuna and a row of mustard, and no problem with germination there whatsoever. So I don't know, maybe it's just a sort of plant specific thing depending on what I've sown. I'm going to try and sow some more lettuce today. Probably not here, maybe not, we'll see. Maybe I'll use this little bit of spare ground up against the side of the leeks, but we'll see what happens. That said, parsnips, notoriously difficult to get to germinate, but they seem to be coming through. They're still quite small, so you probably can't pick them up. Rainbow chard's doing well. Radishes are doing well. We've had our first crop of radishes. And then beetroot, which I only sowed last week. They seem, yeah, I can just see a few. There's one there again. If we try and zoom in, I don't know whether this will show up or not, but yeah, there you go. They are coming through, so that's good. And then similarly, under here, we've got some kale plants coming through as well. We've got regular green kale, and then also a red leafed kale as well, so I'm quite pleased with those. As I say, we seem to have also inherited someone's fertiliser sack in the wind, so I'll get that off of there in a sec. See, again, the wind's blown this open, which is not good because it means the cabbage white can get in. But I'm going to come in here and weed today. So broccoli plants are doing okay. They're a bit slow, some are better than others. That one over there is not too bad, and this one here, so if you see the contrast between that and that, I mean, obviously there's a bit of difference in size already, so we'll see. But I'm pleased, they've all taken by the looks, which is good news, so I'm pleased with those. Apple tree had loads of this one, and hopefully I think I can already see that there's some fruit starting to form, so that's good. It looks like it's going to have a lot of fruit on it, which probably means I'm going to actually have to come down later in the year and take some of that fruit off, because it'll just weigh the plant down too much, cause it to branches to break and things like that to happen, which is a shame, but there it is what it is now. Black currants, quite a lot of black currants, that's good news. And the currant which went round, one of these is that might be a red currant and that might be a white currant, I can't remember back there. but whichever one is looking good and one isn't, so we'll see. We've had lots of rhubarb cropped, so that's good. Comfrey's flowering already, so it won't be long before we're making comfrey tea. Not tea that you can drink, but tea that you can use as fertiliser. I'll probably do a video on that, although if you look on the internet there are loads out there. Gooseberries doing well. In fact, there's some huge gooseberries around here. Let's just excuse me while we walk around the fruit. Where were they? So look at that. I mean, you know, that's enormous for this time of year. And the loganberries are just coming into flower, as you can probably see, so it won't be long before I need to net this. What I normally do is wait until the loganberries are finished flowering, because they're generally the last thing here to flower. So let them flower, let the bees get at the flowers and obviously pollinate them, and then I'll net that so that the birds can't get on there and eat all the fruit before we do. Plans for this area really are more kind of quick crops, so radishes and things like that, but also I've got some dwarf beans this year. I'm not going to do runner beans this year, I've decided. I'm just going to do dwarf French beans, which don't require kind of sticks, but again this wind is meaning that the temperatures are keeping the temperatures quite low, and I think it's also harming some of the germination. The area where the compost bins were has been cleared. There's still a few bits of stick and things which I'll pick out as I go really now. But this is going to be pumpkins, courgettes, probably sweet corn. If you've seen the previous video from the potting shed, as I say, sweet corn germination has been pretty poor, so I need to get some more seed today when the allotment shop opens. But that's going to go in there as well, and hopefully with it being a former compost area we should have some really good pumpkins and courgettes this year, because I'm sure there is a lot of good soil and good compost still down there, so that's good. Purple sprouting broccoli has just gone berserk. In fact, it's going to seed, as you can probably see. The yellow of the flowers, and we couldn't keep up with it in the end. We were having it pretty much not necessarily every day, but every other day. It's only a few plants, but it just was going mad, so I think that's coming to an end, so we'll probably clear that patch and then have a tidy up behind the compost bins here. Just finally, I think I'll just show you what happened to this hose. I posted a picture of it on Instagram, but basically I came down one day to do some watering, and it was the day after I think we'd had the frosty couple of nights, and basically the hose has just gone so brittle. Now I suspect it's not just the frost, it's because it's been outdoors in the sun and it's just weathered and worn over time. But it literally, I was uncoiling it and it just went, I heard this crack and looked down, and as I looked down, that was when the water came out of the hose and soaked me. But it's just not good. And the whole hose is like it, although it feels quite pliable. It seems the minute it's got some water pressure behind it, it just becomes very fragile. So I might use that for other things, or we might just leave as is, but and it'll end up at the tip eventually. But yeah, quite a shock, not least because I got quite wet. So that's about it for today. I'm going to crack on, as I say, weeding, earthing up, healing up the potatoes a bit more, and I'm also going to try, as I say, insert a bit more lettuce, probably down that side, and I think I'm going to cover it just on the basis of more the wind than anything else. So it won't be frost proof, but it'll get a cover from the worst of the wind at least. Anyway, if you have been, thank you for watching this far, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care now, bye bye.